Welcome to the fourth episode of 13 Ways to Lead with your host, the 13th Command Chief of the Air National Guard, Chief Master Sgt. Maurice Williams. Our featured guest today is Senior Master Sgt. Javier Sosa from the 152nd Airlift Wing. I'm Master Sergeant Eric Gallion, and today's topic is all about leading by being credible. 80% of leaders' ability is measured by his or her education, training, and experience, or ETE. The other 20% is a leader's ability to influence and inspire. Ability, along with ETE, equals 100% credibility and effective leadership. Chief, the floor is yours.
Hey, well, thank you, everyone, for coming in this morning. I would like to start off with Senior Master Sgt. Javier Sosa to introduce himself. He's from the 152nd Airlift Wing out of the state of Nevada. So I'll let you go ahead and tell a little bit about yourself.
Thank you for this opportunity, Chief, to tell my story. So a little bit about myself. I was born and raised in the Bronx, New York. Always been a fine arts major through high school. Decided that I wanted to branch out to other specters of my life, so decided to go into the customer service. I've worked with the Walt Disney World Company, as well as a hotel manager with the Las Vegas Hilton. So typically throughout my life, I've been dealing with customer service. I felt that there was a need, so I decided to join the military at a later part of my life. And ever since then, I've been 15 years in the military, 2SO logistics by trade, ventured off to some additional professional development opportunities, honor guard for 10 years, as well as an enlisted aide, and now a first sergeant. So very blessed with my career right now.
All right, very good, very good. Well, now, I'm originally from North Carolina, so, I got that slow southern drawl, so being from the Bronx, you're going to have to slow it down for me. So, but seem like you curtail that accent a little bit, very diverse background that you're speaking of, so how was that experience for you as an enlisted aide?
It was tough, Chief. I was enlisted aide to a Command Sergeant Major, so dealing with the Army is a little bit different. It was rough for the first 6 months, but after that, you start building a relationship. You start building that trust that we're there to give the Command Sergeant Major support and to be able to make sure that with that, the mission is accomplished and that he has everything he needed to be successful.
Right. So, you mentioned about, building that trust, making sure that he's comfortable. That's kind of, the day that we're talking about, hey, leading by being credible. So you was trying to build that credibility up with the Sergeant Major based on your position, because at that time, different components, correct?
Correct, sir.
So I know that was a struggle in trying to get that credibility to where it needs to be, with him being Army, you being Air Force. Different cultures, different environment, and being Sergeant Majors, I always say, hey, Sergeant Major walk in the room, even Command Chief walk in the room, hey, you should make the concrete crack based on your presence. So that's good. So how did you kind of eventually build that trust and that, I would say, trust and credibility with him as enlisted aide, or did you reach that point?
I did, Chief. So it took one of those days where I overslept, and the Command Sergeant Major is waiting downstairs. So I knew that either I was going to get chewed out or my job was done. But that he actually didn't speak to me for a good 2 hours, going from here to the airport, right? But at that point, I learned from my mistake, and I reached out to him and said, hey, what do I need to do? What do I need to do this better, right? This is my first TDY with you. Anxieties are high. We tend to forget that when we put airmen in situations or give airmen opportunities, right? That we think that because of their jobs and their persona that they're going to be okay, but sometimes we have to be able to mentor them and tell them the expectations of, hey, your anxiety is pretty high today. You're probably going to oversleep, so it's important that you set your alarm. Do you need support? So when we got back home, I sat down with him, and of course I apologized, and I said, you know what? I was very transparent. Anxiety was high. I've never done this before. By the time I put my head down on my bed, I was passed out. It'll never happen again. And at that point, we started building a relationship. There were days when I would leave him and the elevator's closing. He's just looking at me, shaking his head. And, it's like a slow movie. The elevator doors. Right. And I'm like, oh, man, I just want to go home. I got Sato on speed dial, ready to go. But again, that just built a fantastic relationship. And by far, one of the best command sergeant majors I've ever worked with.
Based on that experience, and now that you are a first sergeant, as you reflect on that, the person who's a comforter, the person who balances that scale between the mission and people, but still, as a new first sergeant come in anyone, you got to build that credibility, that trust within that environment to get to that point. So as a first sergeant, based on your experience, how did you do that?
You know, it's tough. Being a first sergeant is not an easy job, especially as DSGs. We already have rapport with our units, whether you be a port dog or security forces or even logistics, right? You already have that rapport, and you work with these people on a daily basis, right? So then when you put on the diamond, it changes a bit. Expectations are higher. I have made a conscious effort to stay true to who I am. There's this persona that first sergeants are straight out of the PDG, right? That we can't make mistakes and we can't have a string in our uniform, or, you know, we're just like that perfect. But you know what? I think that that mistakes are a stigma that we need to get away from, right? I think that mistakes allow us to build as people and show our airmen that it is okay. It's not the end all. So in my position, you know, I just happened to get on a temp AGR tour, still doing my DSG job because the mission has to be, still has to go on, right? But it's definitely tough. So we just have to be able to be transparent and real with our airmen, right? And have those conversations that, I have made mistakes in my life. I will continue to make mistakes. I will own up to them, and I will continue to grow from them.
Right. And then you hit on a great thing there, because based on sometime when you're in positions, people think that you're not human. And so many times, I can say for myself, I'm out and they say, "Oh, man, you're so down to earth." Yeah, I am. I've been here the entire time, and approachable. So that creates an environment. Again, you mentioned that you're a drill status guard, a DSG, or traditional, as some folks say. What do you do in the civilian sector? We're not on this temp AGR.
Well, Chief, I'm actually a technician. Within the 2S career field, I am the unit training manager, as well as the unit deployment manager, as well as the readiness monitor. So, jack of all trades.
Okay, you're doing it all. All right. All right.
It's a lot of exposure.
It is, and it's deployment season, right? So I've been a UDM for a couple of years. I'm pretty good at what I do. And for the first time, I had made a mistake as a UDM. And I don't know what happened. It's one of those things, right? Just forgot paperwork, and I'm sitting there like, how did I make this mistake, right? Am I too task saturated? Do I have support? Is there checks and balances in place? I'm not one of those airmen that just go, well, it's a mistake, I'm going to continue on my way and stuff like that. It really took me to heart, and it took a couple of days for me to realize the why, right? Why did I take this to heart? And it's because of the airmen.
Right.
I was put in a position to make sure that those airmen take away the diamond. Just as a person, as a human being, that those airmen entrusted that I would take care of them, and then when I found out that I missed documentation and this could affect the mission, I lost a couple hours of sleep, and that's just how I am. Right.
And that, it really hits the point home when I'm out there talking to first sergeants or commanders. I always talk about the triad, within that community, within a squadron, within a flight, that you have the commander, you have the senior enlisted leader, and you have the first sergeant. And I always use the example of 3 C's. I use the C for the commander as being committed, and then the C for the senior enlisted as being most competent person, and then the C for the first sergeant for character. And just, I think you hit that point based on, hey, you wouldn't be able to sleep if you didn't, do the right thing and make sure the ambulance take it forward. That's the character that you build and that you should have in that position. And I think all of that creates a good cultural environment, that we all can thrive on, and also the organization can thrive on, is we keep that culture there. But it's challenging. So when have the last time you've been on deployment?
Oh, Chief, it's been a long time. The last time I deployed, I was at supply. Right? I think that in order to deploy, you have to be well in mind. because of my family and stuff like that, and my young son, I haven't had the opportunity.
Right.
You know, so as I'm navigating my son through some challenging times, it's important, right? If I can't make sure that my family's taken care of at home, I can't take care of my family overseas in a deployed location.
Right. That's very understandable. Now, the last time you deployed, were you at a supervision level when you deployed?
Oh no, Chief! I was just a mere staff sergeant.
Okay,
Not even a,
well, you wasn't just a mere staff sergeant. You was a staff sergeant. You was airman.
Yeah, no, actually, I think I was a senior airman.
Okay.
I was a senior airman. First deployment. I remember that I had a calendar at my door, just marking the days.
Yeah, that's right. Most people now. Now people use their phones and their computer with the day counter down on it. Yeah,
it was great. I think that I have been blessed, not with deployments, but a lot of professional development opportunities that has, I want to say, filled the void and has made me the senior NCO that I am today.
Right. Well, that's good. You know, one of the things I always talk about in, like you mentioned, building you as an NCO you are today, is as we look at our education, training, and experience, that we maximize in all of those levels, because that way we have invested something ourselves and we can be able to invest in those airmen to help them grow. But, you know, those things, but it's always, you know, it's about people. And, you know, as we're talking about credibility and being credible, from your vantage point, what does credibility mean to you?
To me is owning up, right? You set yourself up in a position where, I don't want to say the word tested, but you're given an opportunity, right, to excel in a project or whatever, right? You're given that opportunity and you have complete ownership of that. But with that ownership comes the ability to say you made a mistake, the ability to grow from that and to excel and to be the sharer of information, right? I think that times that we are put in positions where we take control of projects, right? It's like $1 million. We don't want to share it, you know. So I think it's important to me. Credibility is being able to thrive in something and be able to make mistakes, take ownership, and be able to share the information.
Now, based on if you look back the last 5 years, let's go back about 5 years. Have you seen a situation within a section, group, or unit where someone has come in and had established credibility but lost that credibility, and seen how it was a challenge for them to build it back, or people accepted the fault of the person in that situation that you can remember?
I haven't. I think that a lot of, and what you're asking has been people that are not part of the service anymore or not part of the unit. When you talk about credibility, especially with our younger airmen, right? When you have, you know, senior NCOs or even NCOs, we have the ability to influence, right? And to nurture our airmen. And it breaks my heart when we have someone that has been in such a position of influence and greatness within an organization, and something happens, right? That's unfortunate. And then we don't see it, but our airmen are hurting because they aspire to be that person. And unfortunately, something happened, right? Whether, you know, that member made a poor choice or something like that. So it's, you know, as other airmen, we back each other up. But yeah, that's the only thing I've really seen. I've been fortunate enough that the people within our organization, again, make mistakes, but they're not to the point where they lose their credibility, right? I think they do a really good job of owning up to their mistakes and being transparent with our airmen.
Right. You know, when you attended the First Sergeant Academy, was that a item that they spoke about, was credibility, as you can remember doing the curriculum?
Well, Chief, when I went through the First Sergeant Academy, I think I was in the hybrid course. Actually, I wasn't in the hybrid course.
Yeah.
I was at 2 weeks home and then 2 weeks at the academy, right?
Yeah.
So I don't remember. It's been a hot minute since I've been through the academy. But I will tell you that what you learn in the academy is nothing compared to what's out on the field. I try to surround myself with people that don't think that me. I want someone that is going to challenge my thought of thinking and not be afraid to tell me when I'm wrong. Those kind of skills you learn in the field, but you got to find the right person.
Right.
Your right grouping.
You got to surround yourself with people that's smarter than you. share different perspective. That's how we grow. That's how we utilize. We talk about diversity and inclusion, and that's when a diverse group of people really help build things. Diversity of thought and help things grow. But being inclusive is you got to include it. So I like that comment that you made. Hey, that's what you want around you, and that's what helps build and make you better as an individual. Because that's what we all need. We need that different thought. It just one of the things I always talk about is, hey, let's fuss and cuss. We'll be respectful about it, but you always should you give a rebuttal on something. Hey, always have the solution to address that rebuttal, to have a solution on the end. Don't complain. Everybody can just complain, but hey, have a solution in your back pocket that when you have a rebuttal on something. So it always helps in that particular area.
So there's one thing that you mentioned when you came out to visit the unit, and you talked about the why. Right. So as a hobby of mine, I teach marching band, right? High school kids. We always ask young adults to do things, right? But we never take the time to talk about the why, right? And how the why impacts them is going to make them a better person, So ever since then, I asked that question, well, why are we doing this? What's the end result, right? So I want to thank you for that, because I have been able to have those conversations with my students, and really explain, especially when you're dealing with high school kids, you got to break it down a little bit more, But yes, I think that never thought of things like that, right? We always ask. Sometimes we yell because we don't have the answer.
Right, that's right.
So taking the why and really explaining it. And I think that when you explain and take the time to answer the why, that you'll save time in the long run. Right.
And you think about it, hey, those individuals, you're talking about high school kids, those individuals that's going to be coming in our Air Force and our Air National Guard. So we must get conditioned to be able to articulate the why behind it, and it has a greater impact on what they're doing and the way they serve and how they execute on the purpose of what they're doing. It's very important that they understand that, and they'll contribute more and have more buy-in, But a lot of times, hey, because as old individuals, we come up from a different generation, hey, just do. Don't ask questions, just do.
Yeah,
but now, hey, you got to explain the why behind it, and if you articulate it well, I think, hey, they will pursue and be successful in doing the mission, doing the job, whatever task it may be. It don't have to be military, but whatever task it may be, to get it down to that pack. That's very good. Yeah.
It's also too is I think that we're always going so fast. Right. It's always a race and never a marathon in the process. So I think that that's as one, we always kind of slow down a bit, right? It's going to get done, right? And I think that if we spend more time discussing those things, there'll be less casualties.
Right. Yeah, we gotta, as I always say, we gotta take calculated risk. So we do the calculation on what we think the solution to the problem is, then we execute on it, and one of the things I say, hey, if it's the wrong answer, hey, let's fail forward, because we're learning when we're failing. But if we're empowering at the lowest level, I think that's a learning point from the airmen. And once again, that's when you allow them to do that, make a decision. That's still building that trust, which builds credibility for that leader to say, hey, I'm empowering you to make a difference, to make a decision, to accelerate change. Those are things we got to keep in mind.
Some of the tools that you use to build credibility, what are some that you have in your own toolbox?
I play Pokemon Go.
Okay.
I do.
Go ahead and elaborate on that, please.
So here's the thing. So, I'm not a spring chicken, right? So I think I need to stay current. Right, so I think that when airmen see you doing that, in a dining facility, they're like, "Hey, first you play Pokemon? Yeah, I do. Right. What's your friend code?" Right, and we have, and I'm a gamer, right? I'm a big avid Lego collector, so I'm not afraid, to share that this is me, right? This is what you're gonna get, So I think that with that, airmen see that you're normal. right? And they're able to come to you and have conversations, When it comes to business and stuff like that, I just do what needs to get done, and I accept the risks. And if it is something that I know that I'm not going to be successful, I'm going to ask for help and be transparent that, hey, this is something new. Please note that this may not be the way or as successful as you want it to be, but I'm going to try to get it done, and let you know if I need help.
Right. Yeah, that's a great point. You hit it on again, hey, letting people know that you're human. One of the things I do always, even with my staff, Team 13, as I call my staff, I involve them in the decision-making in the things that I'm doing within, for the entire enterprise. I approach it with them and, hey, they give me feedback, and that gives them that ability to be a part of the big decision-making because they bring up great points and give me different perspective on things. I may look at it one way, because my staff, they're younger than me, so they have a different perspective. Hey, I've been out in the field, but I've been out in the field at a higher level. They have been within the organizations, and they have a different perception in how they receive information and how information is presented to them as a person in the field. So it's great to have that perspective and get that feedback. So that's one thing that I do to help build that trust, build that credibility, because hey, they know they got buy-in and we can sit down and discuss things. Mm-hmm. So it's valuable opinion.
So I started within our wing. It was, I had an epiphany. I was at the gym. One of the airmen from the wing, finance comptroller, was at the gym, right? And I didn't know that. So I decided to spend, every drill I spend a couple hours or an hour or so with a section, just talking, letting the supervisors know I'm not there to be in their business, right? I just want to talk to the airmen, right? To build that credibility so that they know that they have a shirt that they come to. So as I'm sitting with this airman, she goes, hey, shirt, I saw you at the gym. And I'm like, you did? Did you say hi? She goes, no, I was just, I see you there periodically. I'm like, dang. I said, that's a missed opportunity, right?
Right.
So what I do then is after I spend time with them doing our formations, I highlight them. They don't even know. So the key is, the challenging part for me is that I don't take notes, right? I really want to be engaged in what they're saying. It's kind of hard, right? Trying to memorize all the things that they do,
right.
But that is my commitment to them that, hey, I'm here to listen to your story. I usually don't tell them, now that the word is out, that I do this, but it definitely allows me to be a little bit engaged with them. Not so much on the military side of the house, but really care about what they're doing, right?
Right.
And if they need support, I'm here for them. So yeah, it's worked out. I call them my diamond sharp of the months. And I highlight them in formation and stuff like that. My last one was with our PA folks, all young senior airmen and A1Cs. They're a fun bunch.
Right.
Really enjoyed, man. And my takeaway with that is, again, when you talk about development, all they wanted to do, they said, sure, we take pictures of our C-130s. We take pictures of people going in the C-130. We have never been in a C-130.
Right.
I said, wow.
Just the small things that we take for granted.
Absolutely.
Because we've been around a little while, but
But I'm able to take that information with our wing commander there and say, sir, this is what our airmen would like to do. And it works out great. It's a good time. And at that point, we build connections and we get to see what our airmen are doing besides their AFSC job.
Yeah, and that's one thing, too, that, like you say, you sit down and you listen. It's not business. It's just being personable and showing that you care. I want to listen to, hey, what's going on in your life? What's going on in your family? Get to know you. Because that's what people care about. Hey, you really do care about me as an individual, not just about the uniform, because it's the human factor.
How has education played a role in your development?
I was horrible in high school.
Okay.
Really bad in high school. Again, I was an art major, and I thought that was the end all. All I wanted to do was paint and color.
No, I feel you there because I love art myself.
So it took a long time to get my degree. Still a fine arts major. So I think with me at that time of my life that I was not successful in high school, what the military was offering from an educational standpoint, and I'm not just talking about paying for my tuition, but again, all these professional development, ALS, NCOA, senior NCOA, I was pretty humbled to be able to go those in residence. I took advantage of those. and all these other leadership courses that are there for us, right? So they're sort of filling the gaps that I missed during high school, not the developmental piece, but just as a person piece, right? So I try to take as much advantage of those because I think that, one, I like to put stuff in my toolbox, right? I don't know when I'm going to use it, but I just knowing that I have it there and that I didn't miss an opportunity to attend something that's going to, help me and shape me later down, I do take advantage of those. I think that we don't, because of mission, we don't push those out as much as we should. If you take one piece of information from any professional development, then that's a win.
You ever learned something that you thought had nothing to do with anything, whether it be in college or EPME, but then all of a sudden you found yourself recanting that information in a totally unrelated setting, and you're like, wow, actually, that came into play.
Wow. So, fun fact, right? So in ALS NCOA, I knew that I wasn't academic heavy, so I'll be the first one to draw the storyboards. That was my thing.
Right.
But I'll take care of this. Don't worry about it. And I remember the teacher came in and he was like, okay, nice storyboards. I hope you can still pass your tests, because back then we had to take, you had to take the test, but that was my way of showing contribution, right? I wasn't don't ask me to review essays. It's not going to happen, right? I would look at it and go, hey, this looks great, and try to find if something's not intended. But that was my way of still trying to be relevant,
trying to contribute to the team.
Right, absolutely. Yeah. Because I knew I wasn't the smartest guy in the room. I just did the minimum to be successful, but I never took away the connections I've had and the people coming together to get everyone to a certain point.
It feels like building group dynamics or something like that.
Absolutely. Within residence, if you, again, I keep on foot stomping this, if you struggle with the educational piece, in residence allows you to, break down your barriers, right? And really take the opportunity to build camaraderie and have that person that's, a scholar and help you. And then in return, you're now learning stuff that you were not successful in high school, right? And they're helping you. Hey, by the way, you can do this a little bit, this, and now you have another skill set that you didn't think that you were going to get and in residence.
Right. Yeah, and you got to include that. See, when we talk about education, we look as academics, but it's about that experience that you had too, because you're being educated based on the experience. I own 3 courses out of my office: the Command Chief Training course, the Chief Master Sgt Orientation course, and the CNC Enhancement course. Our job is not to deliver a product. Our job is to deliver an experience, because I want them to remember it the rest of their life and feed off of that even after they're gone.
I had the opportunity to go to the Senior Enhanced course recently, and it definitely answered a lot of the why, especially sitting in a room with a lot of seniors, prior first sergeants. There's a lot of times when we are dealing with processes or we're not getting the answers. I think the course allows us to fill in those voids and gaps and really allows us to interact with Senior Master Sergeants that have been in their careers for a long time. So I think to me it was beneficial. I built again connections and rapport with those airmen, and I think that if anyone has the opportunity, please take advantage of the course. I think it's a really good course.
Yeah, and doing that course, we try to hit on credibility in itself, based on your position and based on the why and how you be credible, and the course in itself. That's why we focus the course on the Air Force Foundational Competencies. After every brief, we give the why behind the brief that builds that credibility. That's what we do. Try to pick an environment within there, and you be trustworthy of that circle of trust within your classmates. And you really get to talking and have good conversations. Because my understanding, I had great conversations during the course, and not just, hey, we don't talk about mission, but we talk about human being and the human factor, how to manage your life, and those type things to make you a better individual.
Absolutely. It also gave me an opportunity to not to put him on blast, but to educate a maintainer on the importance of a first sergeant, right? If he's listening, he knows what I'm talking about, you always wonder if you're in the right place at the right time.
Right.
And if anything.
Sound like you were.
Oh, yeah, Chief. And anything, I was there at the right time, and we had good conversations, right? But the takeaway of that is that I think that we tend to forget this, that once we take this diamond off, we don't remove the senior NCO aspects. We're still senior NCOs, right? So you can mentor for a sergeant.
Yeah.
You know, please don't rob a first sergeant from an opportunity just because, you know, we're wearing a diamond. We are senior NCOs first and then
Right.
to diamond, right? Because at the end of the day, this is a short tour for us. So if a diamond wearer is not successful, then we got to look at who's taking care of that diamond, who's mentoring that diamond,
Right.
and make sure that he or her are successful. Because again, we're just given a foundation at the academy. This is OJT all the way, you know.
Oh yeah, because the role of a first sergeant has changed, and I think that has changed the expectation, and that's why I asked you about being credible as a first sergeant, because during my tenure, I came in the Air Force in 1987, and back then first sergeants were older gentlemen that sit in there. There was not a tenure for a first sergeant, and they put them in there, and from that point they retired out. So it was not been utilized as a developmental position at that time. It was for older guys and a promotion opportunity for people to be in. So over the course of time, that has changed and the expectation has changed. And as I mentioned earlier about that triad and keeping that credibility there within a flight, a squadron, or a group of that triad, or what the expectation is. So over time it's changed, and I think it's going to continue to grow as we look at the continuum of training that the academy is creating now to push out to the field, that it will continue to grow.
Yeah, I definitely think that within our organization, we've had a lot of conversations about the triad, and I think that it's getting better, and actually a lot better than what it was, especially in my position with a new wing commander. I wasn't forcing myself to have a seat at the table. I'll work with the high chair for a bit, right? With that being said, I have been able to still continue to develop a rapport with him, and then as well with the command chief, and being able to be part of a discussion. It's a win. Being part of that triad is not, okay, you're in today. Right, you got to build that credibility and rapport, right? And it's important. A lot of when you have conversations with first sergeants, well, I'm not included in the meetings, So you got to start asking, well, why aren't you? Are you knocking on the door and say, hey, what are we talking about? Or are you just sitting in your office hoping to be invited?
Knock on the door. Don't wait from open the door. Hey, you coming in? Nah, go knock on the door. Hey, sit at the table till they push you out of the way. But that's where that support should come in from those other two individuals, too, to make sure you got a seat at the table.
People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And you've given us some examples, Senior, about how much you care about your airmen. Why don't you tell us about some of the effects you've seen firsthand about your willingness to care about their well-being?
Wow. Okay. So this is the one that I, take to heart. So actually, right as I was giving the opportunity to go on a professional development tour up in headquarters, we're working a project where we take our airmen to TEC for professional development opportunity. They go there for a week. Curriculum is is set. And so forth. So as I started a couple of weeks, maybe a weekend, things changed drastically. We ran out of money. It's supposed to be a joint thing. We ran out of money, and unfortunately the Army could not attend with us. So we had to switch gears really quickly. And that's when we reached out to TEC for support. Me and the chief took this and ran with it. So essentially we took roughly around 60 airmen, got them to TEC, got flight arrangements and all that stuff in about under 30 days. So it was pretty quickly. But once the airmen got there, and the return investment when they came home was well worth the sleepless nights, because we could still continue to develop those first four. We asked those questions when they came back. Hey, how was it? Oh, it was great. Okay. Granted, you're telling me what I want to hear. How can we make this better? So our current state command chief has really taken this to a whole new level, where we're asking those questions. How can we develop this? Because of the positive response that we've gotten from our airmen. So things like that. This trip could have easily been canceled. A missed opportunity for our airmen. So there was a lot of individuals that played a hand in this, that made this happen. To me, stuff like that as a team fills my heart, man. I just, and then to be able to have the opportunity again to make it happen and make it better and take those feedbacks of the goods and the bads, I'm super stoked with that.
Yeah, and the state of Nevada has been doing that for the last couple of years, going up to Knoxville, up at McGee Tyson, to the Training Education Center and University, as they call it now, to have that professional development, have a whole schedule lined up, and have those professionals there that are instructors to provide that professional development. One way that your state is leading the way on that, I think it's doing well. It's a good program to have as y'all continue to build your professional development.
Thank you, Chief Master Sergeant Williams and Senior Master Sergeant Sosa. Education, training, and experience are major keys to being successful in the Air National Guard. They are tools to help us lead our airmen to be successful and to be the leaders of the next generation. Be sure to follow the Air National Guard on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And for more of Team 13, follow the Director of the Air National Guard on Facebook. Join us again next month on 13 Ways to Lead, where we will be talking to Chief Master Sergeant Timothy White, the Air Force Reserve Command Chief, on leading by upholding standards. From all of us here at the Air National Guard Podcast Network, have a great Air National Guard Day. Team 13 out. 13 Ways to Lead is produced by Major Amber Schatz. Our editor and sound mixer is Master Sergeant Brandy Fowler. This episode was recorded at the Secretary of the Air Force Public Affairs Studio in the Pentagon.